Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 132 of Let's Play on The Story Tinker. And today we have two brand new co-hosts, Jacqui and Erin.
Hi, I'm Erin. I'm 32. I live in the Northeast US. I am married. I'm a massage therapist and mom to two wonderful cats.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jacqui from Austin, Texas, 26, avid reader, noted by the books, engaged and proud fur mom, I guess, of cat and dog. We're a mixed family.
That's funny. Yeah, well, two cats, but not with me, although there are two different cats in this house. So, last week we left off with Charles reminding Sam of her party, which was actually a raid, and him spilling his coffee because of her shock. And we open up with Angela sleeping in bed and just like looking at her apartment kind of to see what it's like. Did you do that to like analyze what their personalities like, what we can see? She has like this kind of very classic wooden bed, and she has this mannequin, sunburst mirrors, organized
She also
desk.
has a bat next to her bed.
A bat?
That's a baseball bat, like next to her headboard.
Ooh. Okay, well, that's pretty indicative of, what she went through, right? If she is so scared and she has so much trauma that she feels the need to have that next to her bed. I didn't even notice that. I can't believe I missed
that
it.
was the first thing I noticed when we saw her. I was like, oh my god, her room is so nice, but oh my god, she's got a bat next to her bed. Like, girl, like, props to you, defend yourself, but at the same time, I'm like, oh my god, who hurt you?
Mm-hmm. That's serious. Yeah, I remember thinking like I actually thought several times of putting a bat next to my bed because like I didn't want a gun, and I thought like, okay, this is the next good thing to have for intruders, but I never got around to it, especially since we don't play baseball. So and she's groaning and she picks up the phone. She's like, do you know what effing time it is? Someone had better be dead. So, which is obviously a very funny thing to say, where you're like, I hope someone's dead. And we get to see her freckles.
I was just thinking that. I was like, I had to like double check and go back to previous episodes. Like, I was like, did she have freckles? It's been a minute since we've seen her. Like, what? And no, she always covers them up.
Which is sad.
Whenever Manji was releasing some preview stuff, that was one of the scenes that she had released is Angela with freckles, and I was like, who is that? Because I had no idea, but yeah, it was kind of funny.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I love freckles. I have freckles. I don't know if you can see them, but yeah, definitely. And freckles are cute. I don't even know why anyone would. I mean, people should do whatever they like, obviously, but freckles are adorable.
There's another webtoon I read that anytime I've shown my husband like any of the shots for me, she's the main female lead is like covered in freckles. He's like, I love her freckles. She's so cute.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I have more questions about freckles, but I guess this is not a freckle soliloquy, so that's. And we have Sam on the phone, and she's like, Angela, it's me, Sam. I'm so sorry for missing your raid last night. I hope I didn't worry you guys. And I find it funny that she's waving while she's talking. Do you ever do that too? You're like on the phone, you're like, hi.
Oh yeah.
I'm a hand talker, so if I'm not talking with my hands, I literally can't talk.
Right.
My husband used to grab my hands when we were chatting just to see if it would interrupt my train of thought, and it does.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yep. Same. And Angela's like, what are you talking about? Didn't you get the message that the raid was canceled? And she's like, oh, it was canceled? Yeah, Dallas was grounded for some reason, which is like, yes. Okay, so I was wondering, right? We left off like in season 2 where Link discovered like all the billion toilet paper rolls and their garbage, and he's like, Dallas. So I was wondering what was going to happen. So I'm sure we'll get back to it, but now we know at least that he's been grounded.
Well, I mean,
like, wait, what do you guys think of Dallas and like what's going on with him, and why is he stealing paper towel rolls, toilet paper rolls?
Well, I also think it was the smoking too, right? Like Abe caught him smoking and he's like, you're not even 18 yet. Like, how are you able to get these? Does your brother know? And he's like, between that and the toilet paper thing, I think combined together probably spells recipe for disaster, right?
What is he
He's
doing with
definitely,
him?
I mean, he's acting out in some way. I think some of, he and Link obviously lost their dad quite young. Link was a little bit older, so I'm wondering if Dallas is just doing the teenage rebellion to like a whole new nth level, but it's probably also just to piss Link off because he's only stealing them from the coffee shop. But yeah, I still haven't figured out like what on earth he's doing with them. But like
Putting them in the garbage,
amateur move
apparently.
101, don't throw it away at home. Throw it away somewhere else. Put it in somebody else's trash.
I also remember, oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
So I also remember in one of the previous episodes when they're at the gym working out, and Link and Angela are playing basketball and Dallas oversees them doing that, and he gets extremely jealous that he cannot interact that way with Angela, who I think he perceives and likes as a pretty woman, very fiery, calls him out on his crap kind of stuff in the game world. And so it kind of like, I wonder if there's not a way that he's doing this, not just to get back at Link for that, but also to be like kind of a stick it to you. Like, I don't know. Again, I haven't figured it out either.
One brothers thing that I think, brothers.
Yeah, and that is the fact that Dallas is like in a very turbulent stage in his life. Like, it's not pleasant to see someone go through that. And I remember my teenage years, and it's like just like so like everything was so unhealthy, so drama, the emotions, the anger, and like stupidity, right? Like you look back at it now and you're like, it's just and Dallas is going through that, and it's hard to see a character like be so dumb, self-destructive, silly, but obnoxious, all that stuff. But it's so true to reality. Like, that's what teenagers are. And like, yeah, but hopefully we'll see him grow up and like see his own redemption arc or whatever his resolution will be. But it's nice to see that portrayed, especially since the rest of the comic is about adults. So we're kind of getting like age diversity in terms of like what he's dealing with in his stage in life.
I really want him and Link to be able to have like that good brother bonding moment of like, let them hash it out if they need to kind of duke it out with each other a little bit, whether that's with words or physically or whatever. Like, I want them to kind of have that coming back together moment of like being a good family unit, because I'd hate to see them drive a bigger wedge between them. Because like they seem to have a pretty good and supportive relationship growing up, and I know my sister and I had a stuff like that. Like, we fell apart for a little while and now we're closer than ever. It's like I want them to have that thing that brings them back together, to be like, you know what, you can be a shithead sometimes, but you're my brother and I'm always here for you.
Yeah, and I see in Link's approach, like my daughter is 10, and she's already displaying some preteen behavior, and I'm a very like strict parent. I don't know if I'm very strict, but like that's more my attitude than I'm not like one of those like, oh sweetie, come here, let me like massage your hair, like not one of those people. And my reaction to her is always like very disciplinary, like, oh, like don't speak to me that way, it's rude, or like it's unacceptable. And I recognize that like I probably have to change the way that, I have to change the way that I relate to her, because I don't think that's the best way. And like Link right now is very much like, Dallas, you're doing something wrong. Let me censure you. Let me explain to you why, you're acting like what you're doing is wrong. But Dallas may just be further antagonized by that. Like, he probably needs someone to be understanding and say, hey, what's up, Dallas? Like, you seem like you're going through a hard time and that's making you lash out. Like, what can I help you with? And it's very hard to do that when you're like close to that person and when you're angry, about the things that they do. But we have to, always overcome our instinctive reaction. So now that we've done all this analysis on one line, she continues, and she's like, Kyle's wife had to work late, and Olivia and Edgar had to go to some hoity-toity gala, which is funny because, they're they're the rich crowd representing that world. And she's like, how did you not get the message? Were you not online all night? And Sam was like looking over at Charles. She's like, it's because I passed out when I got home from work. I just woke up. Charles was like, shitty liar. So cute. And very Charles, of course.
Weekend Charles is very sassy.
Yes. I love it. Yes. Adorable. Sam is not too happy about this because she, unlike Charles is very comfortable, right? With, he's like, he has no problem saying, yeah, I spent the night with the girl, right? But Sam is not at that stage yet. She is totally new to these kinds of experiences. So she is still embarrassed and not ready to share with her friends yet.
And I've seen it in a couple of the Discords and some of the comments and stuff like that. Like Angela is she not necessarily the mom friend, but she's super protective. So like if Angela found out that she spent the night with someone, that her hackles would get up. She would be like, who was it? What did you do? Are you okay? Where are you? Do you need a ride home? All this other stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, they were like, both Angela and Vicky were encouraging her to like be in touch with her sexuality, which is great, but they probably do have maybe an overprotective side, and Sam knows they'll be on her case, and she probably needs a little more privacy at this point.
Needs a chance to ease into it a little more.
I think the worry is that, Sam's with Charles of all people, right? It's not Link, who it's just their friend and they know and they're aware of. And I mean, even with Link, they were still very overprotective. And they knew him. But with Charles, he's like, this new element. He worked with her, so that kind of like, I know it's not supposed to be taboo because like the dad made the policy at work that you can fraternize with other people, but like it's still kind of taboo. It is her boss. It is in a relationship of power, and I can see. I'm also a very mom friend to my friends, but it's like, are you sure he's not taking advantage of you kind of thing? Like, you feel like you can't say no in this situation. And then of course, her also getting drunk with him and she doesn't drink adds a layer to it, I think.
Yeah.
The one
I'm
piece
so
of this
curious
relationship, that's the one piece of the relationship with Charles that it doesn't sit right, is that power dynamic that he's, yes, her dad owns the company and there's that power dynamic, but I am your boss and you are my underling, so to speak. I'm like, if he literally were anywhere else, either in the company or just an equal, a peer, I wouldn't be as much, like it makes my skin crawl a little bit. I'm like, I don't mind them together outside of work, but with that dynamic, I'm like, oh, but no.
Yeah.
But I mean, you see so many, web comics where that's like the girl dates the CEO, and that's like
it's like this like giant Korean trope. I read a couple of them right now, and I'm like, what is it with this attraction to like young, hot, distant, emotionally cold CEOs?
Look, I'll admit I fall for it every single time a new one comes out. And I'm like, oh, is it going to be different? No, it's the same.
Yeah, that's not my thing, but like I also recognize like at this point, it's so funny after analyzing like the relationships and these like what people are attracted to, and myself, like on the podcast specifically, like I recognize I do not like people in power over me. I'm like, like we have to be equals. So I'm like, no CEO for me, like unless I mean, the guy could be a CEO. I'm already married, but whatever, in my theoretical fantasy world, but like I have to be on the same level. Like I'm not like, oh my God, you're the CEO.
You can be the CFO while he's the CEO.
And I don't think that someone's job position makes them a more powerful person than me or an inherently superior person than me. I'm saying I would never have a dynamic where I am in a relationship with someone who I think is superior to me, like or who I'm afraid of, or who I'm like intimidated by. That's So anywho, back to Charles and Sam. Angela's like, whatever, I'm going back to sleep if that's cool with you. Sorry, Angela, I'll talk to you later. And Sam thinks to herself, oh, I guess I didn't miss the read after all. Otherwise, I would feel awful that I let him down. So that's good. Good for her. And sorry, Charles tells her, he's like, you didn't have to tell me that you had a party last night to go to. Could have told me the truth. And she's like, it's kind of embarrassing. He's like, why? Because you like to spend time with your friends online. You don't have to be embarrassed about that with me, Bunty. I wouldn't think less of you for that. Like, oh, Charles.
I know, it's like validating and reaffirming that her hobbies are good and valid, and doesn't matter how she's spending time with her friends. It's that she's spending time with her friends and having fun. Like, yes.
I also like that this is the first panel that we see her absolute giant hickey.
I know,
Oh,
like, oh my
yes.
God, that bite though, like Charles.
As soon as I saw it, because I was like, what? And I scrolled and I was trying to find, like, was this shown earlier? Am I going crazy? Nope. But yeah, I was like, ooh, the bite.
Yeah. Nice. That's a very strong bite.
Right? Like, that had to have hurt even in the moment. Like, I feel like that had to have hurt a little bit.
Yeah, it's funny because looking at this, I was like, I don't think my husband ever bites me, because I don't ever remember experiencing this.
Or maybe her skin just bruises really easily. Like, maybe it was like a little nip and then just boom. But also I worry, because this is going to have immense repercussions when her dad comes back. I mean, just immense.
I hope he stays here for a really long time, and that
we get a fourth wall break later with some of it that we can talk about again. But like, I'm like, yeah, like she's got her hair up. It's like she's gonna have to wear her hair down for like a week and a half, or putting makeup on it or something.
Turtlenecks. What season is this? So she appreciates it. She's like, thanks, Charles. I just need to pick up a browser for a minute. That's okay, of course. And they're at her apartment building. And she's like, it shouldn't take too long. My landlord's watching him. No worries. And Erin, you can take over from here.
My first thought, though, when we got to that point was like, oh, thank God, Bowser wasn't left alone, unattended all night. I was a little, I in the last podcast recording, I know there was some discussion of like, well, who's taking care of Bowser? And it's like, oh, thank God. So I'm like, maybe is this like a setup that she has with Mrs. Whipple, like on Friday nights for raid night? Because she's probably gaming for hours and hours. Does she take him every Friday night to hang out and watch detective shows and eat French fries or popcorn or whatever?
I was wondering about that too. Like, she didn't call anyone yesterday, so that makes sense.
Yeah. So Sam goes and picks him up, and he hops right out. There's my sweet boy. Were you good for Mrs. Whipple? And we re-meet our wonderful landlady. He was a perfect little angel. Thank you again for watching him. No trouble, happy to do it. And she asked, does he eat all your popcorn? So obviously Bowser's got a bit of a snack tooth. Wouldn't say necessarily a sweet tooth, but not this time. That makes sense. That we did make it through 2 seasons of Crime Chronicles.
Whoa. That's a lot, right?
I'm like, it's got to be one of those half-hour shows, right? It's like 2 seasons in one night. My goodness.
I'm getting tired just thinking about it. Like, I am not as young.
I mean, I feel
as
I feel like I could watch Criminal Minds though, like 2 seasons, like in a flash.
Yeah.
I could just see her, Bowser and Mrs. Whipple, like sitting on the couch together with the bowl of popcorn in between them. My parents had a cat that was a dumpster cat when she was a very young kitten. So like she used to eat junk food with my dad. Like she'd eat Cheez-Its and popcorn and stuff like that on the couch with him.
Hilarious. Cute.
So then obviously the people keep talking back and forth. Bowser can't really understand it, but something has caught his attention, and he looks up and he sees Charles, and he yips over to him, and they have the instant pack bond over their shared Welsh heritage in this moment.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
I have a question before we go on to Bowser and his cuteness. Does it look to you like Charles is a little bit unhappy in like the panels where she's talking about the popcorn and when Bowser's looking up at Charles?
He looks kind of just not sure what to do with himself. Like, this is a relationship that Sam has, is her landlord, it's her landlady, but like I think he's just not quite sure what to do with himself, like where she hasn't introduced him. You know, he's not sure how long this conversation is going to take. It's that awkward, like, I'm just here because I'm physically here. I don't need to be present in this conversation.
I think that's also just like the resting face, because I feel like Charles has that constant problem of he just always looks angry. I mean, like in every other panel that he's drawn in, his resting face, it just looks like slightly aggravated at any time. And I think that also just comes from like being a man high up in an organization, maybe, like so.
Or just, I mean, I know that when I was in like the years of my life when I was like just very miserable, I always had like a sour expression on my face. And I was like, I distinctly recall like noticing it, that my mouth was always turned down. I was like, oh wow, like this is like bad. So, you know, Charles may be in that time in his life where we know he's been, you know, wounded by his wife, and his whole attitude has taken a very bitter tone. So it could be that that's also why he just has that resting bitter face, you know.
I mean, he's probably also still got a lot on his mind. He got that phone call from the other company last night while Sam had her Irish coffee unattended. You know, so he's probably still mulling that over in his head, like, what do I do? You know, I'm now possibly have this thing going on that I really might enjoy, but at the same time, you know, it's the how, you know, he got that, it's how much money? What? You know, so he's probably still mulling that over even after this morning's activities. So then Charles is having a bit of a panic. Miss Young, what does he want? I think he wants you to pick him up and hold him. Why would he want that? And Bowser's like, yes, please. Oh my God, a new friend. Like, again, just instant pack on. He is in it to win it. He is Team Charles. I think he likes you. Must have made a good first impression. And this whole reaction from Charles, like, he's very skeptical of this and is like, I don't know how to do this. Like, did he not have he may not have had pets growing up? Like, or is just, you know, like there's a certain amount of people that just aren't pet people because they invite a certain amount of chaos into your life, and he seems like somebody that does not enjoy that level of chaos in their life.
I think it's also a commitment thing. Like, right after his wife, he didn't want to make any commitments at all. The most, I think the long-term relationship at that point was his job. And so having an animal definitely invites that type of love and connection. And then, you know, kind of rejecting that because he felt like he didn't want to deal with it. But I do like the raised eyebrow at the end, like, huh?
And just, how do I pick him up? I'm kind of like you would a child. Steady on, mate. Don't go ragdoll on me.
But it's that's just like a cat thing, right? Like, maybe he is used to cats.
Well, I know, and sometimes when Mongi's done the characterizations of her characters, like Marshall is like a Labrador, he's a people pleaser, and I think she's done Charles like he's a cat, very aloof, very kind of distant. I'm like, well, she's clearly never met my cats. I've never met more people-oriented cats. You know, Monica is a wolf, Link is a lion, like, so they've got these very big animal personas. But yeah, he's just like, oh God, what do I do?
Very,
you know, how's this? And then he's just got this little Bowser loaf. You know, and just uneasy. Am I holding him right? I don't want him to be uncomfortable. Like, oh my gosh, and Bowser's just pleased his punch. He's so excited.
That little
And it actually reminded me, I had a conversation. We've got some friends that live with us at our house, and my friend Carrie was saying this morning, she's like, I've never held a baby, like a human baby, but she one of our cats is absolutely obsessed with her. So like every morning when she comes downstairs, she scoops him up and holds him like this, and he just is like, okay, and just like she scratches his belly, and they stand at the front door and watch all the birds, and it's just like they do that for like 5 minutes every morning, and she's like, I'm gonna be so good at holding babies because I'm used to holding this cat.
Nice.
No, but Charles holding Bowser is just like my ovaries. Ah, it's like, oh, they're so cute.
That
Just
next
made to
panel,
hold that dog.
Sam, heck, my heart just jumped. I was like, girl, same. It's so cute.
Yeah, it's funny because yeah, it's like a lot of people portray it. Usually they have it with babies, and you know, Sam has pets, so she has it when he holds the pet. It's a classic moment in stories, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, you can be the father of my children.
And
The
then we got
stepdad to my dog.
exactly, yes. And then Mrs. Whipple chimes in, wowee, a man so handsome even makes my old ovaries go doki doki. And I was like, yes, I'm living for this dirty old lady. Thank you so much.
But also, I like the implication that she obviously either watches anime, reads manga, because doki doki is like it's a Japanese sound effect, right? It's for like a heartbeat, and so, or like a pulse. And that to me is just even funnier.
Yeah. But what, yeah. Yeah.
It's the MPL version of the badump.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah,
badump is something that I learned after reading.
So then finally, yeah. So then Mrs. Whipple, this is my friend Charles Jones. Pleasure, madam. Ooh, a British accent. I hope that means we're about to be invaded again. Like, I'm just living for her, just that old person, no filter. But yeah, Sam finally realizes, oh, I should introduce this person who I've got tagging along with me, so he's not just standing here awkwardly with my dog.
And he's so formal and so polite, that's yeah, it's like his demeanor to everyone else is just, like we were saying before, very distant. And it's nice to see him have a relationship with Sam where he is more close.
I mean, it's also that level of veterans. I mean, she's an older woman, she's the manager or landlady for the building, so just she is now she is also a position of power. And I think it's not necessarily like power respects power, but like I respect that you are in the position that you're in. You're in a position of power within this building. You give my friend a safe place to live and you take care of her.
Yeah.
I also think that he just has charm, right? Like just absolute, just finesse. Whenever it comes to talking with someone.
That English gentleman thing. That's why she's like, oh ho ho.
By the way, I also realized, I was like, I don't know what a Welsh accent sounds like. I'm gonna go on YouTube and like put on Welsh people talking so I can know what it sounds like.
I love all accents, but Welsh is so it's kind of hard as far as like the English accents go to imitate. And so like, if you hear a good Welsh accent, like that person's from Wales.
Yeah.
I have not been able to meet anybody who could like imitate one.
I think the last Welsh accent I probably heard was, I still haven't finished season 3 or 4 of The Crown, whatever the last one was, but where, but they send the actor playing Prince Charles off to Wales to study and learn Welsh and all this other stuff. So like I got some of it there, but yeah, it's one of those, like, it's definitely distinctly different from like English, like an English accent. It's certainly not a Scottish accent, but it's just that differently unique something. But yeah, I don't think I could ever recreate it even in my own head.
Right. It's one of those that like
that.
truly you can't recreate in your head. Like I could probably figure out a French accent or Italian because you hear it so often, but Welsh is very distinct. And I like that she made him Welsh of all things. Like there's so many good examples in media of just, regular English accents or, French or Italian, any type of other European, but I don't think we get a lot of Wales representation. So I liked that.
Yeah. So then she says, if these are the type of friends you have, Sam, I can understand why you were away last night with yesterday's outfits and a hickey on your neck.
Oh,
and Sam just has this like, oh my God, what? To be young and dumb and full of fun again. And Charles is just like, yeah, and like, he's definitely, I think, a little embarrassed on her,
that she's talking about it so openly.
right? Because it's very clear that the implication is that's from him. That's a love bite from him. Why else would he be taking her home this morning?
Yeah, I wonder, this kind of also makes me wonder, like, is Mrs. Whipple married? Does she have a guy to have some fun with? Or like, does she have a boyfriend or something?
Right? I don't know. I want to like go back and like scroll and see if I can see a wedding ring on a finger, but I don't know if we can, we'll get that level of detail. And then we have an exterior shout of, Charles, why didn't you tell me I had a hickey? And I love Charles's fourth wall breaks. He seems to get the most of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, in my defense, your hair was down earlier. Otherwise, you've been drawn on the left side of the panel, and I couldn't see that side of you very well.
That's awesome.
I love in the previous panel, right, where he's looking to the side like, crap, I didn't think I bit that hard kind of thing. Like maybe he didn't know that he had done that to her, or realized it much later on.
Yeah, and I just, like, you've been on the other side of the panel, you know, because like in the car, it was on the passenger side door side, like, so he wouldn't have been able to see it from where he was in the car. And like I was saying earlier, yeah, like she had her hair down, so now she's got her hair half up. So unless she keeps her hair down at work for the foreseeable future until that's healed, you know, she's going to get a lot of side eye from some folks, and her dad is going to have a stroke.
I bet she wears a scarf, and I bet that her dad calls her out on it or something dumb, right? Like,
no, oh my God, the receptionist, Lucy.
Yes.
Like Lucy will call her out on it and be like, yes, ma'am, thank you, get it, girl. And like ask her like, who was it? But she's gonna be like, oh my God, Lucy, like cut it out, because just see like her dad will come out of his office and be like, my pumpkin.
He has crazy radar, like he knows things that are not possible to know, so he'll find out.
Oh yeah.
Oh no, I don't want to see that go down, honestly. I'm
so
terrified.
Then, and then she's like, oh, this is so embarrassing. And again, he's trying to reassure her, like, Miss, it's not a big deal, Miss Young. And she's, maybe for you, but I'm not used to this sort of thing. And then we see a new set of legs in the hallway, and we'll pass this over to you, Jacqui.
All right. So step, Marshall enters the scene, and he goes, as he looks their way, sees that Sam and Charles are there in her doorway. Oh, hey, morning, you two. Morning, Ben, says Charles. Morning, mumbles Sam, extremely embarrassed. And then Bowser,
Clutching
who is looking, she's clutching her neck, like, don't notice, even though he's not even facing that side of her. But Bowser is looking just like so smug, like, like, here's this person, I like him. I don't like you, kind of thing. Like, I let him pick me up.
I was just zooming in on that. It looks like he's getting ready for a growl. Like he's not even necessarily smug. He's got angry eyebrows.
Well, it's kind of like one of those kids, right, where like mom says no, and then you go to dad, and then dad says yes, kind of thing. So like, you know, Marshall wants to hold him, and he's like, no, and then. So then it goes, hey, Charles, I never got to thank you for, and then he realizes that he sees Bowser being held by Charles. Something wrong, says Charles. And Bowser, who has his little tongue sticking out, just like nana boo boo. And then Jacques, as he points at Bowser, Marshall's like tearing up, crying, just absolutely absurdly upset by this. Just hilarious. And then, listen, little pupper, Marshall says, I know that we started off on the wrong paw. And he's just like, you know, getting real close to him. Bowser's turning away, like, I won't even listen. Because the first time that Bowser and Marshall met, like, you know, he picked him up immediately, disrespected all his boundaries. And, you know, then Charles, who respected, was peaceful with it. But I think that's a stark difference between like Marshall and Charles, right? Like Marshall is that big energy at all times, and then Charles, who's more reserved, earns Bowser's trust at the beginning.
Yeah, Marshall does that over enthusiastic, in your face, oh my god, it's a doggo.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it has something to do with like Dina also, because Dina is
Crazy.
like, yeah, I mean, she just doesn't know what's going on, right? Like you could be that overexcited type of person and Dina would just be like shivering. And so then in the next panel we see, I also know that Charles is a real dreamboat, and I've heard he's great with his hands and gives good pets. And the double entendre there. Like Marshall have no idea that Say was given a good pet earlier, right? Like
oh, that's awesome. It's
and
so
Charles
good.
is just like,
Why are you
Like
invading my
this-
privacy? Why
Well,
does
and like the
everyone, does
sixth-
everybody know about my sexual activities? Like-
yeah, well, like the Sixth Sense as well, right? Like, because also Marshall's speaking because his older sister used to see Charles, so Charles is sitting there like extremely awkward with that whole situation.
Mhm.
And then Sam looks very concerned for Charles. Charles has the ellipsis of like, and then Marshall in the next panel, but I give the best snuggles, butt scritches, and the gentlest of snoot boops. I even let the doggos be the big spoon. So why won't you give me another chance to prove my love for you? Marshall, who's going through this whole soliloquy of just professing his love for Bowser.
I mean, that was enough. I sold me. I'm like, I like being big spoon. Like, yes, please.
Right. But I think what's interesting is in the next panel, Charles is like, have you considered that he simply just doesn't like you? And I don't think he meant it as like a mean, barbed insult or anything, but just like have you considered, very bluntly. And then it doesn't always matter how much you may love the dog. They may dislike you regardless. And Marshall gasps, right? But I think what's interesting is the parallels that I've seen, especially with the Bowser interaction and her video game. So both Charles and Marshall played Ruminate, and both of them had a very different approach to the game. Marshall at the beginning tried to go bust his way through, headstrong, enthusiastic like always, and that got him in trouble. And then we see that kind of same thing play out with Bowser, is he tries to go headstrong, go in for, immediately, you're going to like me. I know what I'm doing to get your trust and your love and affection. And then Charles, on the other hand, is a more calculated approach. Even if he doesn't mean to be, that's how he is. And also how they kind of defeat Bowser in the game Ruminate, right? Like Charles does it through cunning and smarts, and then Marshall does it through prowess. And so I hope I'm not right in this and how that predicts the ending, but that's just how I'm kind of seeing like the acts go. It kind of parallels their play in that.
Yeah, that's a good point. And for me, the biggest thing for this was, well, I have two things. I think that like Marshall's need to be liked by everybody is unhealthy, and he had a very extreme reaction to what happened with Sam and Ruminate, and his guilt that he felt was a little bit over the top and uncalled for, and it obviously resulted in extreme poor physical health for him. So I think I understand now why Monica was so protective of him, saying that he has a big heart. Like he really, really, really does, and it's to an unhealthy level. And he has to, I agree. I think that one of the things he'll have to learn is how to not be so tenderhearted and not take everything so deeply. And it's tough to do, I imagine, but he'll never get through life if he doesn't learn to develop a little bit more of a skin.
I wrote my notes that like his people pleasing, like you were saying, Mindy, and being liked is so important to him, that the idea that an animal, like most of the time, like dogs have this huge reservoir of unconditional love, animals in general, So the idea of a dog not liking him on principle is just unfathomable to him, that it's just, he doesn't know how to deal with it because he's so not necessarily used to being liked by everyone, but it is such an important thing for him that it's just maybe he just doesn't like you. He's just like the heartbreak on his face, because it's something that he knows he's struggling with. And especially like this is right after that nightmare that he just had with, his dad and that overbearing personality and trying, the people pleasing with his mom. I see that as very much, he was probably the one in the family who tried to keep the peace when everything was falling apart around him. If he can just make everybody smile and forget that everybody's mad at each other, then everything will be fine and nothing will be bad and everyone can just be happy again. Like that's what I'm seeing, is like he doesn't want people to be upset. And if he can't fill that role, what is he doing? What's his point? What's his purpose?
I think what's interesting is like, as he played Ruminate the first time, I think he played it as Marshall, but then as the second time he played it as Ben. And so I think he will win Bowser over whenever he finally becomes Ben again, and accepts himself as that. And so that's why. But I mean, I think that's why Bowser doesn't like him, right? Because you can tell that animals always they have a sixth sense whenever it comes to people and recognizing true people from fake people. And I think he just realizes that Marshall doesn't, I don't want to say doesn't deserve his love, because that's not the right way to phrase that, but it's like he is withholding it because he wants him to try to approach him as Ben, because he knows what he can be, and he wants to like that person. But I probably have reading too much into a dog.
No, I love
That's
that
what
idea.
we're here for, though, right?
Right. Bowser is the moral compass in the center of this entire series.
So I have my own
side-eye in that next panel, though.
Right, just absolutely.
So I have like another, like maybe also too much interpretation. When Charles says, have you considered that he doesn't like you? It doesn't matter how much you love them, they may not love you back. It really struck a chord with me, as in like, maybe that's how he's feeling about his wife. He loved her and she did something to him that demonstrated she did not love him back. And that might just be like very present on his mind all the time.
Yeah, I think that's definitely shown. I also think that, going back to the point about the nightmare that you're saying, Erin, and how Marshall just lived that whole thing, I noticed that he tends to be more Marshall after those instances than he is in any other time. And so it's kind of sad to see that happen. And then also Charles, whenever he's confronted with any type of love and commitment, definitely his default is to go back on that, reserved and like constrained type of person.
Yeah, that's true.
These complicated boys.
I know. So many problems.
So, but then in the next panel, Marshall turns away and he's like, of course, Charles. And Bowser, of course, is giving the side eye, and Sam is just looking extremely concerned. And Charles is like, oh, crap, I probably shouldn't have said that.
Yeah, he looks repentant. I feel bad. Like he feels bad
probably a little harsher than I meant it to come out, but too late.
Yeah, exactly. I knew the day would come when I met a pupper who didn't return my love for him. And then Marshall, the next panel, is running away, crying dramatically. I just didn't know it would hurt this much, as he's, blah. And so then Sam goes, Charles, how could you say that? I think you hurt his feelings. And Charles sighs and says, I'm sorry, Miss Young. I'm used to his sister who prefers to speak bluntly. And I think this is also showing that, like, maybe Charles is not the best person whenever it comes to emotions, or, being kind when kindness is needed. He's kind to Sam, but man, everybody else in the office, like, I've never seen him be nice to anybody.
Yeah, I can see that. I think that Sam is different for him. And I know some people might fault Charles for that. And to me that, yeah, while that may be a fault, like it's not a irredeemable fault. To me, it's like a normal human flaw. So I like, it doesn't bother me if he's cold to other people and not cold to Sam. I see that as something that he needs to work on and will hopefully like improve throughout the course of the story. But to me, it's like a very forgivable flaw.
Yeah, it's something that she can help cultivate and bring back out in him, while, you know, make him a more personable, more approachable person in the office and in general, while he brings out a more assertive side of her.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely like that. This is why I like Charm the best, is because I think they do bring out the best in each other, or try to make each other to be the best people that they can be.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, that's also just my bias. Because I do see the stark changes in Sam being more assertive and aggressive and, you know, wanting to participate more and put herself out there. And then Charles, who, I mean, we kind of see in a few of the extras, like with the heart thawing and like the rings clinking, and then his control. The last panel for season 2, right? Like the control with the chains. And I wonder what that meant. You know, was that his control is slipping, or he's kind of like getting back into control of that relationship? You know, but I do think Sam brings that out in him.
Mm-hmm.
Next panel is, I easily forget that Ben has a much more tender heart. Sam goes, well, I'm sure he will forgive you. I just hate to see him upset. And that's the kind of assumption that I hope that they don't continue on into the future, that like Marshall will just be forgiving. Right? Because it kind of seems like they could just walk all over him.
But I like that I don't, the whole like the ships in general, like there are strong ships in every camp. I really like the idea of Sam and Marshall being like really good friends. Like, I don't want them to get together. I really do like him and Marshall and Monica, but like I really just want Ben and Sam to be like really solid friends that kind of just have each other's backs and just like doing that like creative support for each other. And just, I want them to be like I just really want them to be good friends. Like, and that's all I ever need them to be. I do not need them to be a romantic interest. I just need them to be good friends, because I think Marshall needs that just as much as Sam needs that. Like, she's got all of her girlfriends and she does have that really good core group, but I think she, you know, expanding that and having them go from being almost like enemies to friends is going to be such a rewarding experience to see them both grow through it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I will say I'm a Charm shipper, but I could also deal with Smash. So I could swing either way. I'm okay.
Yes, I was going to ask if we could do a bonus question about like who's your end game, but I think we already addressed it.
Well, who's your end game, Mindy?
Obviously, Charles. Well, I mean, this is a total self-insert, I suppose, because in terms of for Sam, I just want her to be happy, I guess. And I think they're both good people, but I, as a person, like Charles a lot, and he's much more someone I would choose. So that's just my bias.
I agree. I think with Charles, especially, like I said, second male lead, I don't know what it is, but like you had Link first, and he was good. He was a solid friend choice as well. But I have not seen her express any romantic interest in Marshall. And so I think that's what stops me from being like, Sam and Marshall. And I don't think he's expressed any interest like that in her. But I'd love to see what she, Manji develops.
I know, I can't wait to find out what the actual end game is.
And then I love in the next panel, Sam kind of reverts back to herself beforehand, of her more shy, less aggressive, assertive person. She goes, "Would you like to?" At the door, she begins to blush, realizing what happened earlier in that morning. And Charles just sits there and lets her struggle through it. It hurts me so much. And
he's just like, I'm just gonna make you say it.
He has such a sweet smile, though. It's like this very tender smile where he's looking at her. It's so affectionate. and amused. You know, he loved that. And it's not a making fun of smile. It's a like, I find you so sweet smile.
Oh yeah,
I think
smitten.
it's a change of pace, right? Yeah, definitely smitten. And a change of pace from I think what his wife was probably like.
Oh, that would make a lot of sense.
Okay.
If Sam is the opposite of his wife, that would make a lot of sense. I would assume he's scarred from someone who has the same personality as his wife. Even if his wife, you know, let's say his wife was assertive, that doesn't mean like assertive women are bad. It just means he has personal trauma from that kind of person.
Exactly. And oh, go ahead.
we don't know what his wife's personality was like, but maybe we can infer that Sam might just be the opposite.
Probably.
But I like, she finally gives up and she's like, instead of saying to come inside, she says to enter my apartment.
Really?
But then he leans into her and he goes, I would love to. And just so cute.
Yeah, he's continuing the innuendo. He's like, yes, I would love to come into your apartment.
Right, like this again, that whole he is so suave and just is like that oozes charm and yeah, just like that. Yeah, I'd love to. And the lean in up.
And the hair falling a little bit in his face, right?
Gosh. I have this. Okay, so I am a child of the 90s, and for me, the sexiest hairstyle, without a doubt, is the 90s part, like Leonardo DiCaprio had, and it falls into your eyes. There is nothing more beautiful than that. And I have made my husband. He always wanted. He actually had long hair, like when he was a teenager, way before I met him. But he had short hair normally, and I was like, please, 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 for 10 years. Grow your hair out. During quarantine, he agreed to grow it, and now it is suitable 90s length, and usually he wears it to the side, but every so often he wants to, like, you know, when he wants something or pretends to want something, he like puts the 90s hairstyle. He's like, look at my hair.
Hey, use what you got.
Sorry. Yeah, this is my beautiful. Thank you. That was just inspired by what you said. Sorry.
No, you're good. My partner also grew his hair out during quarantine, and it is now extremely long, but I am more of the 2000s. And so it was always the skater boys. Sorry, the cat jumped and pulled my headphones down. But I'm like, you got to do the side part.
The down in front.
Yeah.
So cute. Erin, what's your preferred hairstyle? May as well get that.
I'm a sucker for all of it, the 90s and the 2000s. My husband was in the military though, and when his hair starts to grow out at all, he does a little bit of the swoop to the side, but it's more of the like more of a Charles professional hairstyle than anything else. And then he's like, I can't, and he gets it basically buzzed. I'm not a huge fan of men with long hair though. There's something about it. Tora really, I think, the only one that can get away with it for me. Otherwise, I'm like, ugh, not my thing.
Or for me, I love it.
Wow, I didn't realize, but yeah, no, I do like the men with long hair, gotta say, because Marshall also has the long hair, and that's kind of funny to me.
Yeah, it's funny. I don't even see it as long. To me, I see it as like, I don't know, not short, you know, like anything. This is like normal, acceptable men. Like this is like the bare minimum. Like if it's shorter than that, then it's just like short. But yeah, I see long as like, you know, shoulder,
Link,
like
Link has long hair.
Yeah, that, oh my God. Oh, to the extent that I mentioned how my friends make fun of me for webtoon men. So I had this thing where I sent them like 20 webtoon men, and I had them rank them according to like how handsome they found them. And then I was like, when I sent them Link, my friend was like, you like that one. She's like, blonde, buff, long hair. Yep, that's your type. And my husband is indeed blonde, giant. He's not buff, he doesn't work out, but he's still a giant. And yeah, so she got my number.
I have to say, out of all the webtoon men though, Tora, it does take a cake.
Oh yeah.
Charles is a good second.
Right. Honestly, I think Midnight Populin has reinvigorated my need for tattoos after 14 years. I got one, I was good. I've already got like 2 or 3 more planned.
Wow.
You know who probably has a tattoo is Charles. I bet Charles has a secret tattoo that we just haven't seen. You know?
Oh, I would love that discovery, because I mean, Sam didn't do a whole lot of exploring this morning.
She didn't do any, just his face.
You know, and like he lost that shirt, which, you know, props to him for like button down pajamas in the first place. But like,
I know that was
you know,
hilarious. Of course,
she
he had
didn't do-
matching beautiful pajamas. Like he
I
doesn't
expected those to be
sleep in
silk.
boxers. Yeah, he doesn't sleep in a t-shirt.
It
Like-
reminds me of Neil Patrick Harris from How I Met Your Mother with his like
Yes.
silk suits that he wears to bed. Like that's
Yes.
exactly what I imagine.
But yeah, I would. Oh my god, I would love for Charles to have like a secret tattoo somewhere.
Yeah. So, do we have any final thoughts on this episode before we wrap up?
I can't wait until next week.
Right?
I'd love to see what they do in their apartment.
I know. Like, are they going to continue making out?
I mean, we know that those walls are very thin.
Mm.
So part of me is, I mean, you know, Ben knows that his sister and Charles were a thing to a certain extent, you know, whether it was
Did he?
just a casual thing or what. I feel like he has to know, because they sparred together enough, at least, that there had to have been at least something in passing. And I'm sure he knows his sister well enough. But
I don't know. I got the sense that they didn't really talk to each other recently because of the fight in the family.
yeah, but I feel like the thing with Charles has been going on for a long time. Like, it's a very off again, on again when it's convenient for them.
Yeah, that, yes. But I also feel like Eva wouldn't tell her little brother, right? He's younger than her. And I have younger brothers. And I'm like, okay, they know I'm married, obviously. But like, I don't think I would have ever told him if I was sleeping with a guy who I wasn't in a relationship with, because he's like, Charles was like unavailable. I don't think I would have told them that, you know? Like, it's not something I would have shared, because he wasn't her boyfriend. He was just the guy she slept with.
I think the problem is we're now 5 episodes in, 5-ish, and we have yet to have any type of conflict. And so I foresee that, you know, as they get to talking and exploring, I think that more of that conflict will kind of show up. Sam being very insecure about her experiences, and Charles trying to be more reassuring. But I don't know if he'd get frustrated, but I hope not. That's just my internal worry for the next episode, though I would much prefer exploring and happiness.
Right.
We also, I mean, the conflict could easily be finally getting whatever blowout is going to come from Lincoln Dallas, because that is an unresolved storyline that I cannot wait to get back to.
And definitely hinted at in this episode that there is more to the story than just, you know, because I mean, Link doesn't have the power to ground his brother. Obviously something must have happened where the mom had to step into. But what I like, my dream for the next episode is them just playing video games together, and her introducing him to World of Warcraft, the World of Warcraft type game, because I would love to see more of that. I am personally like a huge gamer, and that's what got me into Let's Play originally, was because of her like love for video games. And so then seeing the World of Warcraft alike type panels, I was like, I understood all the references. And so I've tried to get my guild into reading this, and they've been a little hesitant, but I'm trying.
Oh, good luck.
I would love to see them go through a character creator together.
Nice. Oh, that's cute. Yeah, well, we'll find out what happens. Yeah, I'm hoping for some mission gush, but yeah, you're right. We may not get that. I just want more love. I mean, I do.
One may be enough for her for her first time.
Some morning dew.
Well, ladies, thank you so much for coming on. It was such a pleasure to meet you both. I'm so happy that you came on, and I hope that you guys come on again.
Yeah,
of course. Thanks for having us, Mindy.
Yeah, thanks
You're
so
welcome.
much. It was super fun.
Yep. Okay. Have a good night.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.